Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Real Christmas Tree Farm Tour. I'm Marcia Gray with the Real Christmas Tree Board, and I'm really glad that you're here to join our tour today. We have a great turnout with thousands of students joining us. Now, before we start our tour, I need to share a couple of quick reminders for the teachers. For those of you who are participating on Zoom, please note that the chat features have been disabled. However, you can submit questions using the Q&A icon. I'll be monitoring those questions and we will get to as many as we possibly can, including those questions that you sent ahead of time when you registered. For those of you who may be joining us on YouTube Live, unfortunately, we will not be able to answer a question, give you an opportunity to ask questions on that format. Now, today's tour, we're based in Oregon, and Oregon is the #1 Christmas tree production state in the country. Let's go out to Oregon and meet our farmer, Tyler Stone. Good morning and hello, Tyler.
Good morning, Marcia. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. So glad to see you. And why don't you just give us a little bit of background about you and your farm?
So I'm born and bred to be a Christmas tree farmer. My dad started it over 60 years ago, and I fell in love with it. And now my son Luke is falling in love with it as well. So we got three generations all working out on the farm here with my brothers as well and their families. And it's just become a way of life. Farming is definitely something you have to love because of the amount of hours that you have to put into it. When people ask me what I do for a living and I tell them I'm a Christmas tree farmer and they say, that's neat, what do you do the rest of the year? I just laugh. And that's kind of the reason that we're doing this video today, is to show them what it takes to get a Christmas tree to their home. It's not just, happens overnight. It's a long, long process. So that's what we're here to do today.
Well, fantastic. And you're absolutely right. It not only does it take a long time, there's stuff to do all along the way. You don't plant them and come back, 5 years later and hope you got a tree. So why don't we start there? For the #1 question we got, how long
Okay,
does it
so
take to
let's
grow a
let's
Christmas tree?
so a Douglas fir is 6 to 7 years to get to about a 6 to 7 foot average high Christmas tree. The nobles, Nordman, Turkish, they all take 8 to 10 years. They're a little slower growing, and it just takes more work and effort to get them up to maturity. So it's at least 8 to 10 years for the nobles and Nordman. But we start from a seed, as most things do. This right here is a picture of a Nordman fir. These are true firs, so the cones grow straight up. You can see the little leaf dust of the tails off of the seed right here in my hand. That's a seed for a Nordman. And then right beside it, that tiny little guy, that's a Douglas fir seed coming from a much smaller cone. So we have orchards and out in the wild, we'll go out and collect the seed, and then it's taken to a nursery. I don't have one of those, but I hire people that do that for me. They take the seed and they'll put it in a styro housing in a greenhouse, plant the seed, and it'll grow there for about a year. You could also transplant them out into nurseries. Then they'll have a bare root seedling. I'll show you a picture. This is a plug. This is a noble fir. You can see all the
Wow, look
roots
at
right
those
here.
roots. Those are amazing.
And this is about a year old. And so I'll take it from the nursery out into the field, and we'll plant it either with a machine or by shovel. And well, I'll show you all the processes here shortly, but in 10 years, this will be that noble fir that's behind me.
That's amazing. That's quite a process. Yeah, we'd love to see. I know you're
So
going to step out and show us how you plant that in a
maybe
minute. But
maybe
also,
I'll
yeah.
let Luke get dirty. He's gonna plant this one for us right behind us. So let's get over here. This this is our planting shovel. They're specially made for this. All he has to do is shove that shovel in the ground, and he's going to crack the ground back and forth to open it up to get some air down in there. Once he creates a nice pocket for it, the plugs are nice because the roots always hang straight. The bare roots, where there's no dirt on them, they can tend to get clogged up. But you just gently kick the dirt back in around it, and then at the end, he's going to press his foot around the edge of it, his heel, and get the air pockets out so that it's nice and sealed and the roots have moisture up against them. So now that tree's planted, and we just pray that it grows up nice and strong.
What time of year do you typically do this planting? Is it a spring planting or fall planting?
Spring planting is the most common, just because of the weather conditions that we have that make it a better for us. But we've just finished planting 100,000 trees this fall. We finished last week. Fall's very nice. It's just our window between hot summertime and then absolute rain and cold is difficult. So if I can do fall planting, that's definitely a preferred thing if we can.
Fantastic.
So keep going.
Yeah, keep rolling.
So once we get the tree in the ground, that's the great thing. It has to sit for a couple years, and then we have to come to a tree and we have to do what's called either basal pruning or a handle, and we cut the bottom branches off of this tree here so that it has a nice stump on it for when the customers take it home and put it in their stand. And it helps promote the branches to grow up and out so that we don't have just a giant bush at the bottom of the ground. So we got all those off. Now we'll have that to work with. That's not a fun job, let me tell you. My parents made me do that when I started first grade, and I hurt my back. And now I'm glad I don't do that job too much anymore. So once the trees get bigger, we have a shearing knife, and we will trim all the trees with this blade. And we're gonna go through a few more culturing things, but when we get done with this section, I'll shear a tree for you guys so you can see what that looks like. But you just take it and swing it around to culture the trees. And culturing trees is it's not that we're taking them to art museums or anything, but we're trimming them to make them nice full trees. If we don't trim the trees back, then they get very gapped out space and don't have the nice traditional shape that we're looking for.
So
The other
what you're
job,
saying,
good.
so what you're saying is Christmas trees don't just grow that way. You have some work to do to make them just that shape and the fullness that customers want.
Correct. Trees grow once every year, and every year after they get done growing, we have to culture them back to make them look nice and pretty. And then we do it again every single year. Part of the process that we have for training the trees, the nobles and Nordman, when we cut the tops, this is the leader of the tree, when we cut it, they tend to grow crooked sometimes. The Turkish and Nordman are pretty straight, but the nobles can be crooked. And we cut to a bud right there, if you can zoom in on that. We cut just above it and then hope that next year when it grows, it will turn up and grow straight. So if we back up a little bit, this leader right here, the top of the tree, this was what that was last year. So you can see that's last year's version of this. And it grew that much in 1 year. This one has a lot of buds, so we can leave it a little bit longer to try to make it grow nice and tall. Luke's going to do me a favor. He's going to put some bamboo in the top of this noble fir that has a crooked top in it. And that's what we have to do to train them if they're not straight.
Okay, so you want that really nice straight leader up top, and
Yeah.
if he has kind of a weird thing, you like tie this in and bend it around?
Yeah, he's got some twist ties, little paper wire twist ties with a piece of bamboo, and he anchors it, the bottom of it to the trunk of the tree, gets it nice and straight, and then once he does that, then he pulls the leader over to the bamboo, and we leave it in for until just before they grow next year, so
Okay.
that trains that top to be nice and straight. Gotta go quick.
So here's the magic.
It is. This is
We're
the fun
going to
part.
make that a straight top. There you go.
Yeah.
But then that will actually grow that way then? It will stay straight
Yeah,
until
once
years?
we leave it in for 4 or 5 months, it'll stay up straight. When he takes that bamboo off, it won't go back to its original position.
All right. And then when you showed us before, all those little buds along that top leader, next you're going to branch out and be branches?
Correct. Yeah, it's very easy to see on the Turkish back here. It has nice shape to it, but all these little buds that we can see right here turn into these branches down here, and then these branch have buds on them, and they'll grow out and fill in and give us a nice dense shape.
Wow.
So after 6 to 8 years of doing this over and over again, we will get the finished product, which is, there's a Turkish off to our left here. That one's probably 8 years old. It's about an 8 to 9 foot tree. And that's kind of our desired finished product for what we're shipping. So once we've been working the trees for many years, trying to get them ready to go, then in the summertime, we send crews through the fields, and they have a sizing pole like this that has a little 4-inch kicker on the bottom to help make sure that when we cut that tree, we have it at the right height. and they carry belts with a whole bunch of different size tags on them, and the tags are color coded to match the pole by 1 foot increments. So we have a blue is a 4 to 5 feet, a red's 5 to 6, a yellow is 6 to 7, and green is 7 to 8. So what they do is they'll come up next to the tree, measure it. They fold this top whirl branch up, and where that lines up, that's what determines what color the tree is. So that one is a 5 to 6 foot tree, which is red. They'll take the tag and loop it through the branches, tie it onto the tree so it's nice and tight. And then the tag says it's a noble fir. It's 5 to 6 feet tall. It has care instructions on the back side for the customer to read, to know how to take care of it. Cut the bottom half inch off the bottom of the stump and get it in water immediately. So that's how we do our tagging and grading and sizing all at the same time out in the field in the summertime. That way we know when it comes time for harvest what we have for inventory and what we have available to sell to all of our customers.
And I suppose because those colors are so bold and clear, any cutting crew that comes through there knows exactly what they're harvesting, and they can be divided by size and species, correct? For
It,
shipping out.
exactly. All the species have the same color code for sizing, but they all say what species they are on the tag, and that helps us sort them. When we go over to the sorting yard, we can look and see different piles are sorted by different species and sizes, so that when the semis come in to load them out, we know which piles to take them to fill the order.
Great. I got to ask a question. We've had, I think, I keep getting it, so I need to ask this so we'll satisfy the kids. How many trees, number one, do you have on your farm, and about how many trees can you grow per acre?
So our farm, we work with a couple different people, but our farm is around 2,700 acres, and we have over 3 million trees in the ground. Sorry, there's a truck headed out right behind me. We have over 3 million trees in the ground, and then I work with a couple other people. I get about another million more coming in. We'll harvest a little over 300,000 trees every year. Christmas trees are typically planted on 5 foot by 5 foot spacings between them, and that gives you roughly 1,740 trees per acre. And not all the acreages are full capacity, because when we plant that tree, we have different rotations going on. That some of the fields, when we start harvesting out of them, it takes 3 years usually once we start cutting out of a field before we clear it off. So there's some open spaces in the older fields.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
you mentioned rotation, and this is probably one other thing we should just talk about with our students. You mentioned these millions of trees that you're growing, but you don't harvest them all the same year. Like, how do you plot that out?
Very carefully. It's very hard to plan on a crop that 10 years later it's going to come to maturity, to know what the customers are going to want and the desired look of each tree. So we have trees at every single stage of their life growing on our farm. That way we ensure I can keep the same customers happy every year. If I don't have something coming up the next year, then I'm in trouble, and so are they.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that's actually really helpful. A
Mhm.
couple of questions I want to, while you're in the field, and I know we need to get to the loading yard to see that, but questions about environmental stewardship. I mean, you're taking care of a lot of land out there. What do you do to take care of the property? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, a lot of work goes into growing a Christmas trees, and having good ground is important. So when we have different rotations, we take them out. We'll put a cover crop of grass or something like that on it to try to make the soil healthy. We'll test for pH and nutrients, and we'll add lime or fertilizers needed to help keep that tree very healthy. If you have a healthy tree and we do a good job picking our site and location, then the trees will grow naturally much better. And it's a great thing. We love being out here. I love being out in the field with my son. It's fun being outside. There's tons of wildlife out here. I think the other day when we were here, we had a coyote running through our sorting yard right behind me, but we have deer and turkeys everywhere, and every once in a while a bear up in the higher elevation places that we have trees. So I love doing this. I could have I went to college to be a chiropractor, and I didn't do that because I like being out in nature with the trees.
And you mentioned all that wildlife, and we know it. Our Christmas tree fields are homes to lots of different birds and lots of different wildlife. But of course, we want to be careful. Like, what if you're taking down the trees? Are you taking away their habitat? Are you taking away their home? How do you handle that?
Well, there's constantly different fields with different stages, and we only take out some at a time. So there's always homes for them. I mean, we got 3 million trees. There's lots of places for birds to nest and the deer to hide, and we definitely see them out here on a daily basis.
So I
They
guess
always have,
if a bird has 3 million choices, they should in pretty good shape.
yeah, they've got lots of options. That's for sure.
Fantastic.
So
Well,
go ahead. Are you ready for me to go up and do a shearing demonstration now?
yeah, let's go do that. Let's see.
Okay.
Right now he's going to walk up. We're going to look at how they do a little shearing demonstration with this blade. And this is a process you do what typically in the summer, correct?
Yeah, typically we shear trees in the summertime. That's when they've done growing for the year, and we have to trim them. And then if don't get harvested that year, then the next year we have to do it over again.
Okay, now I'm looking at this tree, and all the kids are going, that thing is kind of wild and crazy. I look at all those crazy branches. So if
Yeah,
you didn't do this, that's what they'd be using for their Christmas tree.
right. Yep, I'm going to give it a haircut technically. So this is a Douglas fir, and they are more of the full shaped version, where the nobles and the Nordman, we do more of a light tipping to them. Here, I'm going to give it more of a hard line. That's the desired look for this one. So when I first come up to the tree, I'll look at it and try to determine which is my leader, my top of the tree that I want. I'll take my clippers and cut out some of the competing branches and try to individualize that so I know what I'm shooting for a top when I start trimming it with a knife. I'm going to come around to this side, so steer it there. So I have my leg guards on, safety first. I'm going to be safe. And you just take the knife and you have to swing pretty hard and follow through. So I'm going to start shearing this one. I take a couple different swings at different levels. I try to keep my eye on the line that I'm trying to hit and follow all the way through and make it nice and clean.
Does that take a lot of practice to learn how to do that?
Yeah, my dad started me when I was a little kid, so I've been doing this for quite a while. I have a few years of experience doing it.
That's a
You'd
lot.
always,
That's a lot of
you,
work. Now, how many trees kind of, like you got a shearing crew, a crew of people that do this. How many trees can they shear in a day?
well, if you have a lot of years of experience, you can shear over 1,000 of these a day. If you're shearing nobles, you can do probably a couple thousand. It just depends on the size and how full the tree is, how many swings it takes to make that tree perfectly sheared. So
That is a lot of work.
I'm going to take off my leg guards real quick. And
Well,
Luke,
while you're
you want
doing
to?
that, I'm gonna throw a question out. I've had a lot of people asking, how big is your biggest tree?
So the biggest tree we ship is typically up to 20 feet tall.
Oh,
That's typically nobles or Nordman. Douglas typically don't have requests for trees that big.
okay.
So we have a chainsaw here. This is a regular chainsaw, but it has what's called a bow bar on it with a couple of guards and a tooth off the end. And what that's designed for is specifically for cutting Christmas trees. So we have a mock-up of a tree here. You take this tooth and put it against the edge of the stump and then just push straight through. And that's how you cut a Christmas tree down. It's much easier than pulling sideways with a straight bar all day long. So that's what we use for this. I won't fire it up right now. We'll keep moving.
So,
Um,
well, on that same question, then, how many trees can your harvest crew? How many can they take down? How quickly?
uh, a cutter, when he's in shape, can cut several thousand trees a day. That's definitely a back-breaking job, but easily they can do over 2,000 trees a day. Just depends on how heavy the cut is and how big the trees are.
That's amazing.
So we're going to pull this tree off of the stand here real quick, fire up the baler. Before I do it, I'll do a little bit of explaining and then we'll make the process happen. So the stump of the tree is going to go in this little cone right here, and that will start shaking. That's to get all the extra needles and debris out of the tree so it's clean when it gets to people's home. So we'll shake it for at least 15 seconds, and then Luke will take it and put it in the jaws of the baler here, and the jaws are hydraulic. They'll squeeze the trunk of the tree and hold it tight, and it will pull it through that cone that has different levels of leaves on it to compress the tree. And as it comes through on this side, there's twine cans here that have twine in them, and it will wrap the tree up and keep it nice and compact. And the reason we do that is so that the trees are protected, the branches are protected, and it makes them much smaller for shipping all over the country. So let me fire the baler up real quick. It might be a little noisy. Marcia, you might have to talk for a few minutes.
Oh, this is going to be fun. I know it. They're going to really enjoy this. So, as a little reminder, so we're going to shake that tree off so to get all of that. Sometimes there's leaves and debris from the field in that tree, and you want to knock as much of that off as you can. First, we got to get the stand off,
Here,
and then they're going to throw it in that baler,
you got
and you're
it?
going to see how quickly they can bale up a tree.
Getting the standoff. Almost
This
got
is the
it.
hardest part. Okay, here we go.
So now you can see the shakers going. Look at all the needles coming out of it. That tree's going to be nice and clean when it gets to somebody's home.
Kind of fun to watch that.
Okay, are you guys ready to watch us bale it?
Yep, let's go with the baler now.
Put it in there, Luke. You want to come over here?
So watch that. It grabs the tree, it wraps that twine all the way around it. Look how nice and tight. Remember how big and fluffy that was? And look how nice and tight it is now. So that definitely is what you need to do before you ship those
Turn
out, so
off.
you can pack a lot in. That's fantastic.
So look how much smaller that is.
Oh my gosh.
Nice and compact. You can pick it up, put it on top of your car. I always recommend people put it on the stand, take it in your house while it's still baled, set it up, then cut it open. Makes life really easy.
That's fantastic. Wow. Well, let's head on up to the loading yard. I think you're
We
going to show us
we've
how
we
you.
got one more thing real quick,
Oh,
Marcia.
sure.
I skipped it. Right here we have a staged bundle of trees for flying out of the field. So all the trees, once they're cut in the field, they're loose. We lay them in these piles like this. Then we take the ropes. You want to help me here, Luke? We throw the ropes over the top. This is kind of a small pile. Normally they're bigger than this. Normally we fly around 850 pounds out of the field at one time. This is just what we staged up to have everybody to see it.
So a little
So
note for the students who are watching, in this area of the country, not everywhere, but in
it's
the
tight.
Pacific Northwest, to get the trees out of the fields and to the loading yards and to waiting trucks, they will actually move these by helicopter. So what Luke and Tyler are doing right now is tying up a big bundle. And you said the bundles are normally a little bit larger, but this is what the helicopter would pick up.
This is typically what we pick up. We have the rings there on the end, and we have two braided loops on the end here. And so once they're ready to go and the helicopter comes flying in, I just put my hand up in the air. He comes in, I grab the hook and then slide this on the hook and he takes off. I think we have some file footage of helicopters flying trees.
Yep, we're showing that right now.
Yeah, so this particular one's flying into trucks. Some people do that. Some people just fly them to the ground and then they bail them on the field in the field once they do that. So I don't know if we have a up close picture of the hooking. I thought we did.
Yeah, I think one will show up here in just a minute. So those are some pretty big bundles. There's
Yeah,
the
see
hook.
right there. He's grabbing the hook, putting the ropes on, and then the helicopter picks up and it just cinches down on him. And there's, a Doug fir, we can have up to 20 trees in a bundle at a time. Nobles, probably 12, 15, just depends on how heavy each individual tree is. So then they'll take them to a yard and bale them like we just showed you and stack them in the piles. And we're going to jump in the UTV real quick and start heading over to our sorting yard. And hopefully we have a truck loading over there.
Fantastic. And while you guys are driving, I'm going to talk just a little bit. Some of the other questions that we get are talking about the different types of trees that we have as Christmas trees. They're not all the same. So there are different species of Christmas trees that we will sell as Christmas trees. Now, on their farm in Oregon in the Pacific Northwest, the most common species would be things like Douglas fir, Nordman fir, noble fir, grand fir. Those are the things that, and in Turkish, those are the things that our farmer was showing. But in other parts of the country, you're going to find things like Fraser fir and different pines and balsam fir. And in fact, I think we've got a little bit of our website. On our website, realchristmastrees.com, there's a tree guide. So this might be something fun for the students to dig into. Tells you a little bit about the different species that we grow across the country and in different regions. There's photos and details about 20 different species Although, to be honest, there are more than 20 different species that we grow, but you'll see the most popular ones. And you see there's a lot of similarities, but there's also some differences. So that might be a fun after project for if somebody really wants to dig in a little bit more, they can check that out on realchristmastreeboard.com. Now it
We're
looks
ready
like
for you,
Tyler's
Marcia.
up at the loading yard, so I can see some action going on. What's happening?
Okay, so here we're loading a truck. It is headed to Mexico, is where this truck's going. And we're loading Doug fir. That's the very most popular Christmas tree headed to Mexico. The pile on the right here has red tags on it. That's a 5 to 6 foot Doug fir. The ones they're loading right now have a green tag on them. They are 7 to 8 foot tall Doug fir. So they just load them on the conveyor belt and it takes them up to the guys inside. And right now they're finishing off the back end of that truck so that those trees can go to their final destination.
On these big trucks, how many trees can you typically fit in a load?
So again, that question is answered by, it depends on the size and species. Doug fir, if you have 6.7s, you can get 850 trees on a truckload. If you have a noble, maybe you're talking 700, 750. But lots of our customers have mixed sizes, mixed species, all going on a truck so that when it gets to their retail location, they have a large variety of trees to offer their customers.
So another question we've had a lot of people wondering, where do you send your trees? Where do they go? What's the most common? And then what's the furthest destination you ship to?
Well, California is our major market for our Northwest Christmas trees. So a lot of them head down to California. But we do sell trees. I started shipping trees at the end of September for China because it has to go on a refrigerated container with ice, and it takes about a month for that ship to get over there. So that's the farthest, but we ship to Hawaii. Mexico is what we're loading now. And Texas is a pretty good market for us as well. So we ship trees all over the world.
So I want to go back. You said something about you ship them with ice. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so once the Christmas trees are loaded into the vans, they drive down the road maybe 20 miles, and that shakes the trees down a little bit inside. And there's a plant that they have a machine with a big snorkel on it, and they back up to that, and it can blow 1,500, 2,000 pounds of like shaved ice up onto the top of the trees, and that helps keep them moist. Anything that ships over 1,000 miles, we will ice. If it's shorter than that, that's not as big a concern. Or they have a refrigerated container. Some semis have refrigerated containers built into them. But
Wow.
that helps keeps the Christmas trees nice and fresh when they get to their location.
Absolutely. Hey, show us around the loading yard a little bit. What else could we be seeing here?
Okay, so
It's
over
kind of
here
foggy.
we have a yeah, it's a little foggy. That's a pile of grand fir. We don't have as many of those as we used to. Now the Turkish and Norman have become more popular. So grand fir we're kind of phasing out. But there is still some strong desire because they smell really great. Let's walk up this way. We can kind of look at some of the other piles of trees.
Yeah, I'm seeing some pretty big piles once we get through that fog.
Yeah, we've got some 6.7 Douglas here. This whole section right here is staged for Douglas. We have a whole other section down below where we'll have nobles. And this is about 6 acres of gravel we have set up here with lights so we can load at night. And we will stage each section of the yard for 1 week's order at a time. So we will load up that week's order, then we'll shift to the next week, and we can just keep going. So we always have fresh product going out to our customers.
The shipping season, how long is that? Where do you start?
Well, normally it starts right about now. With China, we ship stuff earlier, but right now we're just getting started. That's why we don't have a super full yard right now. At our peak, we'll have 100,000 trees in this yard at one time just to keep up with all the orders. And starting next week will be very, very busy for us.
That's amazing. You know, we're getting a little shy on time, and I don't want it to go too far over. Some of the students will have to jump off, but there's really an important thing that we can talk about, and that is at the end of the season, when it's over. What happens to Christmas trees that we dispose of? What are the most common ways that they're taken care of? And a lot of the kids want to know what's the best way for us to dispose of a tree at the end of the season.
Well, that's the best thing about a real Christmas tree is that it is recyclable. We can grow this tree as a crop in a field for the specific purpose of having a Christmas tree. But at the end of the season, you have most all cities have a recycle program where you can set the tree out by the curbside. They will pick it up, they take it to a site, and they will mulch it, and it can be used as potting soil mulch on the farm. There are some people that have some ponds that they will sink a tree in the pond for fish habitat and utilize it in that manner. Kind of a creative way to have a tree have its second purpose. But the beautiful thing is it is a recyclable product, and we're planting more trees every time we cut one down. We just plant another one in its place.
That's an awesome explanation. I really appreciate that. And in fact, I work with a lot of growers around the country, and yes, mulching is probably the most common.
Hmm.
But you'll if you watch your local social media or newspapers, quite often places like animal rescues and goat farms and zoos are actually looking for Christmas trees at the end of the season, as do the people who have the fishing habitat in the lake. So if you see an ad for that, you can take your tree and take it to the zoo. Who knows what
Yeah,
elephant's
I
going to
have a
enjoy.
I have a couple goats. You can give them to them; they'll eat them right up.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I want to hit a couple more questions. We know some of the students
Okay,
will have to jump, but a lot of them want to ask things and they have things they want to know. I'm going to ask you two questions. Number
okay.
one, what's the toughest thing about being a Christmas tree farmer? What's the most difficult thing?
Christmas tree farming is a lot of hard physical work, a lot of hours, and that's a you have to love what you do in order to keep this thing going. If I didn't like to get up, I got up this morning at 3 o'clock and went to work, and I'm going to work till 7 o'clock tonight. That's just the way it is. So it's a way of life being a farmer, whether it's Christmas trees or anything else. It's a passionate thing. It's definitely something that's fun to do with your family, and I enjoy that. But yeah, the amount of time it takes to grow these things, the amount of things that you have to look out for, that's the hardest part.
Yeah. And what's your favorite thing about being a Christmas tree grower?
Working with my family, it's fun. Yeah,
And I
I
think
love being out there with my dad. My dad's 81 and he's out working for moving equipment around today. My son's here working today. My brothers. It's great working with everybody on the farm.
that's awesome. A little nuts and bolts question, because I think they're seeing the trees getting loaded and the tagging. Tell us, there's got to be a pretty sophisticated inventory system so you know what's going out and how do you should bill your customers. How does all that work?
Yeah, the technical side of it is more my older brother Ben's department. He helps with all the computer programs and organizing that and tracking things. He has iPads that are in our shuttle trucks that bring the trees here, and he can track where they're at on a map. When they get their load put on, he knows exactly what's on that load, so we know what's been taken out of that field, and he tracks that. And then you can see all the elevators that we have lined up here ready to go to work. My younger brother Nathan does all the mechanical work for us on the farm, and he keeps these things tuned up and running because we can't afford a breakdown with such a small window for us to get Christmas trees out to people. It takes a lot of time and effort by him to keep all these things in working order. So we all have our place in the business. I do more culturing and working with the crews and selling trees, and Ben does the technical side of it. Nathan does the mechanical side of it, and we just try to do our best to work together as a team.
It's really neat to see we're talking about the inventory and using iPads and, we always think farming is not there's not a lot of technology. There's a ton of technology. And I know you use some drone work for inventories and other things.
Mhm.
There's a lot that goes into this and it helps keep it to be a more efficient process, correct?
Yes, absolutely. If we don't stay on top of it, we're going to make a mistake. Like I said before, with 1 month, basically a month and a half to get this done, you can't be making mistakes. We have to know where everything's going. I have to have the right trees here for the right customer. And if we don't take care of all those things, then we're going to make a mistake.
Understood. And
Mhm.
since the questions keep coming in, I'll keep pausing a few more
Okay.
out there. I know they know you're in Oregon. You are near Salem, correct?
Correct. Yes. We're just
Okay.
outside the edge of Salem, but we have farms all up and down the Willamette Valley. Um, Shoot, I should have probably looked this up. We probably have over 60 farms that we have physical locations on. So we're
Well, the
all over the
Willamette
place.
Valley is really the top production area of Christmas trees. And earlier in the pre-question, someone asked, "Why you grow Christmas trees on the western part of the state, but I don't see a lot of Christmas tree farms in the east?" And you can tell them climate, right?
Yeah, but I mean, there are North Carolina tree farmers on the East Coast.
No, I meant the eastern half of Oregon.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. Yes, it's very dry once you climb over the Cascades. It's called the high desert area, and they don't have the precipitation that it takes for growing Christmas trees. And noble fir, they love the high elevation. If you go out in the wild here, you need to get up over 2,500-foot elevation to find a noble fir. We can grow them down here. We're currently at like 650-foot elevation. We can get them to grow here to be 8-foot tall Christmas trees, but we don't grow timber trees here though. Douglas fir, natural environment is at the valley floor. We can grow them here. So we have to pick our sites for different species. We plant in specific sites for that species so we know it will do better in those locations. That's why we have farms all over the valley so that we can grow what we need for our customers.
Hey, Tyler, that is great information. And actually, I'm kind of glad you mentioned North Carolina. So, for the students and teachers who might be interested, or if you know someone who missed this, number one, this will be recorded. You can go back and watch the recorded version. But next week, we have another tour. We're going to North Carolina. We're going to see trees in the eastern half of the US. So, if you didn't get enough Christmas trees today, join us next week. Again, Tyler, thank you so much for letting us come to your farm. It was really enjoyable. We learned a lot. I learned something, and it looks like you got a little work to do for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I need to go back to work, but I want to say thank you to all the kids that tuned in today. Really appreciate your time. And I hope you guys learned something about growing real Christmas trees. And I hope everybody has one in their house because they smell great.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.